Hey, hey, hey. I got rudely cut off, and I didn't really feel fulfilled that I'd given given the audience a good dose of me. Or I hadn't expended what I had initially sort of set out to do. So I thought, well, I'll go put another shirt on and get another tea, and yeah, just sit down for a bit and just goof around a bit, actually. Hmm. Hello, hello, welcome back. I was just saying that I didn't like the way that the broadcast ended. Like, it cuts me off at 2 hours, and I didn't feel like I had reached my peak. So I thought, well, I'll just throw another shirt on and jump back in and get another cup of tea. And I got some other things to talk about. And I know that some people are from other time zones will be sort of finishing work and that too. And I thought, well, let's just hang out for a bit longer. I got a bit of time today, so. Yeah, so anyway, guys, it's all back on. So throw your comments in the thread there and your threads into the comment, something of that nature anyway. Let me know what's going on. So I just want to say too that if you're watching this on Facebook, I don't think that your comments will come up in the chat. So if you're watching via Facebook, I can check on my phone, what have I done with my phone? Hang on. Left my phone behind. Whoops, I didn't turn the mic off. Whoops. Hello again, everyone. Thank you for joining me again, those of you that are tuning back in. I was just saying I didn't really feel like I had completed my purpose in the other stream because it kicks me off after 2 hours. It's the free version. Sign up for a subscription at substack.com, philrice.substack.com for just the price of a coffee a month. So I've got a bunch of books and things I want to talk about here. But yeah, if you've got any questions, throw them into the chat. We'll just hang out. Oh, I got to say, I think I'm getting a bit addicted to this tea, actually. Oh, it's so nice. Everyone feeling the collective kind of shift. When big things are going on, you can certainly feel it, right? Just want to say, anyone out there who's sort of doing it hard at the moment, and I know there's a lot of yous because I hear about it and I feel it and I can see it. You can just about smell it. A lot of you guys are holding it together because other people are looking to you to hold it together. some people may not be able to hold it together because they need to see someone else that they have trust in, so to speak, to hold it together, and they draw strength from that. So those of you who are doing it tough, carrying extra burden, I hang in there. You made it this far. And to be fair, if you're listening and watching this channel, you're probably on a development pathway that you're building up resilience and fortitude with anyway. So, but yeah, it doesn't mean things don't get hard. Oh my gosh, haven't things been somewhat challenging over the last bunch of years? I was going to say too. Oh, excuse me. Not you guys, it's me. You know, let's get rid of that. 3 minutes. I want to change that, man. Banners, logo, update logo. Will it let me do it? No, it won't let me do it. No, it won't let me do it. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. So just anyone out there that's carrying some extra weights at the moment, you'll be right. But yeah, just got to get up that hill, eh? And but I thought, well, let's share some things that I've found. And so this one will be a bit more to the point. I think this cast. So if you've got any questions, throw them in the chat, guys. So I may have mentioned this book before, but I'll bring it again. And that's ESP Induction Through Forms of Self-Hypnosis by Dr. Richard Allen Miller. And this book here is very generous. And it's written for someone with an academic kind of mind. I mean, just the way he sort of, he's named it ESP induction. So extrasensory perception, inducing that using forms of self-hypnosis, essentially. So it's a very, it covers, it should tick enough boxes there for the scholar there to go, I understand what's going on here. This book has got some really cool guided meditations in it. It's also, you'll find that for those of you who are starting Barden's initiation into Hermetics, you may find some corollaries and parallels, and maybe some alternatives to maybe how Barden phrases it, but essentially is pointing towards the same destination. The first exercise in this is actually, it's funny because it goes straight to vacancy of mind, essentially. And it was quite impressive how quickly I reached that state, using the method in here. it was very good. So yeah. But the other one that this does is that it gives you some tests that you can do. So you could essentially just about run your own classes on ESP induction. It gives you metrics for, like I said, tests, but metrics for measuring success and how to identify, because one thing is that a great example is this, right? I haven't got one handy, but if you take a deck of cards, right? And obviously this is a tarot deck and it's somewhat related, but if you took a normal deck of playing cards and you said, okay, black or red, and you went through a whole deck of cards, right? Black or red, 50% chance of getting it right. Okay. If you wanted to make it more difficult, you could say, okay, well, let's go, the 4 suits: diamonds, clubs, spades, or hearts, diamonds, clubs, and spades. Which one is it? Okay, that's 4, so there's a 25% chance. And then, of course, you can go down the whole, okay, what's the suit? What's the number? And what's the, when you get the number involved, that's like, okay, now you're getting into much more difficult territory. But the reality is that, you have incremental difficulty amplifiers. But you also have a metric for measuring success that's satisfying and makes sense to you, so that you're not I mean, hey, there's nothing cooler than just having spontaneous psychic, experiences. Where you just knew something, or somebody just calls you after you thought of them, and that, or you've got an app on your phone that it's like a psychic app, and there's a few of them out there, and there's some real cool ones too. They know how to encourage psychic skill set development to come forth. They have ways of triggering dopamine in the process, which helps, that can help to feed the next guess, if you will. And that's an interesting approach to it. The other thing this book does very well is that it has formulas, and it talks about problem solving, auto suggestion, rules for auto suggestion. It's going to elaborate on things. So these two here. If this is your core text, this is like a supplementary, essentially. It's a very easy way to do some early sort of comparative analysis, but it's going to go into other areas. And like I said, this guy was making things, and so he was testing them too. And so, but he would, in the back of the book, it lists how he would run his workshops, essentially. And I've interviewed Dr. Rick a few times. You can see him on the channel. The mic wasn't that good, just saying. But essentially, for example, in this section here, I'll just read a bit for you. Okay. This chapter, or this section's called Quieting the Mind and Body. And the first exercise is focusing. Select a small personal object that you like a great deal. Now, that's a clue there. Now, Barden just says just pick some everyday objects, but Rick's saying here, grab something that you like a great deal. There's an emotional connection to them, and Mark Rasmus talks about this too. So, for example, if I'm going to work on some visualization practice, like, looking at an object, staring at it, and then closing my eyes and reproducing it in my visual interface, if you will, my mind's eye, I might use this here. I look at this every day. I use this every day. I have a connection to it. When I see this, I go in the morning, I'm like, oh, coffee or tea or, whatever. I've got a relationship with this mug, And so that's why I might choose that. I'll choose something familiar that I have a relationship with already as my meditation object. Oops. Okay, so select a small personal object that you like a great deal. It might be a jeweled pin or a simple flower from your garden. Very nice. Focus all your attention on this object as you inhale and exhale slowly and deeply for 1 to 2 minutes. While you are doing this exercise, try not to let any other thoughts or feelings enter your mind. If they do, just return your attention to the object. At the end of this exercise, you will probably feel more peaceful and calmer. Any tension or nervousness that you were feeling upon starting the exercise should be diminished. This book has honestly got so many exercises in it. A lot of them are going to be complementary, and some you probably find will not be in Barden's book. But essentially, he was doing ESP studies back in the 70s, and he was doing them for the military because they wanted to know about basically creating super soldiers. And so, like I said, rules for auto suggestion, that's good. NLP, internal maps of the world. There's, like I said, there's ways of framing things and directing your language to come out that will be far more conducive to the outcomes that you are seeking, just by thinking about how you speak. Not even what you say, but sort of how you frame it and how you phrase it. And I think, okay, there's a really good, here we go. So when you're building a like a mantra or a phrase, auto suggestion phrase, right? There's a few rules for this auto suggestion. Barden talks about them as well. But in this book here, use present tense. I am calm and relaxed. Okay, so you're stating it in the present tense, not I will be or I was. I am. You're affirming a situation that you would like. And obviously, this is about, but this is not I am rich if you're not. It is I am, we're working on internal states. That's how we use this. Be positive. Eliminate every positive, negative word. I am not smoking. Oh, that's not a good idea. Here we go. This is a good one. If you suggest, I am not self-conscious with people. Instead, I like people. I enjoy the company of people, as opposed to I am not self-conscious with people. So you're not affirming a negative. Be specific, be detailed, be simple. And, use exciting and emotional words. Affirm activity, accuracy, be realistic, personalize, symbolize your suggestion. So there's like 11 steps to help create your initiation into Hermetics auto-suggestion. And there's ways of loading it up with potency so that you get more out of your efforts. So, we can take older tech and how it's explained, and we can flesh it out and see what its components are, and then we can see what opportunities lay within, recently discovered ways of approaching the same thing. And, what I found is that initiation into Hermetics has the promise of it within it that's got a spark that sparks within me. And even though Barden was a stage performer, the book, it's not, it doesn't rizz me up. Once you get familiar with it, like it's not, it's quite a somber path. Is that the right word? Tell me if I'm wrong here, guys. But it's not a super, it's not getting you all revved up, which is part of the process because we're trying to chill those things out, right? We're talking about servicing the world, about connecting with God, with divinity, these types of things. But, part of the journey is to remain engaged in life. And, as Hermeticists, generally, most of us are still we're all operating within society in some form or another, whether we're just doing day-to-day, everyday jobs, or if we're CEOs even, or if we're, like you're an esoteric practitioner or service offerer. And, where was I going with that? Oh, I've lost my train of thought. So, yeah. We've got a comment here. KPL Baseman. I know who that is. That's the problem, brother. I know what you mean. Like, as soon as you mention the G word, it can just switch people off. So that's why I try to kind of keep it like, I kind of do my best to, divine providence, the all that is, the supreme being, the intelligence underlying all things, the organizing principle of the universe, the creative design intelligence. Yeah. The problem with words like God is that it gets thrashed so much. It's like it's got an instant kind of off-puttingness to it, isn't it? But yeah, I think part of the problem is too is as soon as you mention the word God, people are thinking of the biblical kind of Christian God or something like this, and it's like, well, the large majority of traditions and cultures from throughout history generally point towards some kind of supreme overarching being, whether it's monotheistic or pantheistic. And yeah, so but on the trip back up the tree, having I guess things that make sense to us will aid us greatly, because if we're sort of swimming through data banks full of stuff that doesn't really make sense to us, it's like, cool, that's good to know, but I can't really do much with that. There's plenty of teachers out there who are relating to, they're crafting their conversation to suit their audience, and their audience might come from a completely sort of different cultural context and background. And that may not be appropriate for, say, people from like a country like, who come where English is their first language, or they come from where they grew up as a Christian, or they may not be a Christian, but this type of thing. Things have to make sense. And I think spending time exploring all the teachers that I've come across and seeing what's important to me is that the teachers are like, yep, I want you to get results. You need to be aware of some things, because there are traps for young players. There are shortcuts to grandma's house, but there's big bad wolves in the forest too. Just benefiting from the experience of others, this is very valuable. Now, when it comes to supplementing existing exercises, we want to keep in mind that the exercise that's provided to us has an intended kind of sort of trajectory towards an outcome generally. And if you're reading Barden, and obviously the book is very specific about not moving forward until you have reached a level of proficiency with the exercise you're working on. Now, you might not be working under that particular approach. Fine, perfect. You might be taking on more, say, what Mark Rasmus teaches, which is more of a, you basically map the exercises out and then you go through them and you loop them through. You spend 5 minutes on each, and you spend maybe 4 or 5 hours a day doing practice. That's the thing. And you might be looking at the exercise and you're struggling to make sense of it. And it should be simple. It's like, here's a thing. As soon as you're able to do the thing, I think a lot of people get stuck because they don't quite know how to do the thing. Because once you get good at the thing, then you just sit there and do it. It's like playing guitar. There's a bunch of drills and sort of like rudimentary exercises that are pretty standard for warm-ups. And, you can get really good at them, but it's not so much you're getting good at the exercise. It's more that what is the exercise? The exercise is a finger pointing at the moon. What are these drills for? What's the moon? The drills are leading us towards a warm-up. We've got agility and dexterity awakened because we've been moving them and doing exercises and doing calibration exercises and like warming ourselves up on the neck. These are like essentially rudiments, and we have these in our training as well. Man, that's good tea. But yeah, I really recommend this book. He's actually got a whole series of them. He's got the second book's like even like a whole nother level, Power Tools for the 21st Century. So this is, like I said, ESP Induction Through Forms of Self-Hypnosis by Richard Allen Miller. So remember, self. This is not a book. These are things you can do yourself. And I have to say, one of the things I really liked about what was in this book was that you can, it's got transcripts in there for self-hypnosis. So you can record yourself, and then you can record yourself giving yourself the guided meditation. So when you're just laying there, you're listening to your own voice. And it's not someone else's voice. There's going to be a level of resistance if you're listening to someone else speak. But if it's your own voice, you're probably going to be a lot more trustworthy, aren't you? You're going to be like, okay. You're going to be a level of relax. All right, now this is the Wizard's book that I was talking about before. John Matthews. Okay. So I went through this. All right. And let's see. We've got King Arthur. We've got Crowley. We've got Princess Diana. We've got A whole bunch of names I've never heard of. Here we go. We've got John D, Edward Kelly. Jesus, even got our old mate Adolf mentioned in here. I don't know why. Obviously, the Nazis were interested in esoteric technology. Luke Skywalker, Polyphemus, Rabbi Samuel. Everyone's in here. All the usual suspects. Let's see. Is our old mate JKL? Oh no. Eliphas Levy's not in here. So no, maybe not. Okay. Who else is in here? Lots of people, lots of names, people from parts of history, but no mention of Barden. Surprised, actually. But yeah, there's Dion Fortune, Robert Flood, Marsilio Ficino, Giordano Bruno. Nostradamus, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah, interesting. And like I said, a lot of names I've never heard of. And yet, no mention of Mr. Barden, who was, maybe just wasn't that prolific. I don't know. But one thing we are aware of is that the popularity of initiation into Hermetics is growing. I had a lady reach out to me who's been sort of following me for a while on my Telegram channel and on this one too. And she's been hearing me talk about Hermetics, and she was just sort of keen to show up and support. She liked the vibe that I put out on the things, and she was like, yeah, cool. But she wasn't really getting into the Hermetic stuff for whatever reason. That's okay. She was just like the channel, because I've had other channels and I've talked about other things. And obviously this channel's starting to grow in its scope as well. I might have to drop the Hermetics and Kabbalah thing on the channel page, the channel banner, and that, pardon me, or start another channel or something. I'm not sure. I think I'll just stick with this one and just stretch it a bit. But anyway, my friend, she sent me a message the other day, and she said, she's just found out that she's she's known for a little while, but she's got a terminal illness, and she is seeing someone who has she calls a death doula, DOULA, which I believe is like a shaman type. And this person recommended to her that she read Initiation into Hermetics, and then she's like, oh my gosh. She did not expect to hear it from this person. I think that there's part of the journey that you go on, and after a while, you're just tired, eh? You know, you're tired of searching. You're just like, oh, when am I going to find the thing that I'm looking for? Just keep searching, keep searching, keep searching. And then something pops up like this Hermetics book. It's off the hook, man. And then, of course, you find someone like, say, Mark Rasmus, who gets you into Qigong side of things and Tai Chi, and you add these things together. And then you've got Kabbalistic Tai Chi, and you've got Hermetic Qigong, and you're starting to see how all of these things basically form a beautiful meta system of development that really just, this feels like it's all I need. You can carry on reading the ancient texts and all that sort of thing, but you may find that you're not going to be searching so wide as you used to and so far. Following interest threads to see you found something you're looking for, and following your interests is a really good kind of prompting. When you're reading something and you get a spark of interest, and it's like, and it's funny, it'll be in a book about another topic, but it'll mention another topic which will lead you to another book. And it's kind of like you just follow these interest sparks that pop up during the reading process. All right. A jewel pin, that'd be a brooch. Yes, that would be a brooch. But yeah, I really love the... There's lots of really good books out there that can help you to understand... where am I going with this? I guess what I'm saying is that the stuff in Barden's first book, I have found a lot of those exercises, not all of them, but I found a lot of them in other books. And he puts it together nicely. But I've also found that going back to those other books has helped me to understand what he's saying, because they go into maybe a little bit more detail, where his is a little bit more succinct and to the point, like follow your thoughts, watch them rise and fall away. And there's a bunch of sort of like visual metaphors or analogies or kind of like visual gimmicks, if you will, that can help you kind of grasp what the expectation of the exercise is. Can you sit there and just hold your mind like a pit bull, like focus on an object for 5 minutes without breaking your concentration? I have to say, after starting on this book, the concentration thing was what really started to kick things open for me. I just realized that, especially after being a music player and teacher for years, which involves a lot of concentration, over time that skill set can your skill set can flower. Sorry, I just got completely distracted by something. We were talking about building out our understanding of the exercises. So I go back to the old texts, the old books, like Rick's books, Dr. Rick's book, like this one here, and Power Tools, because you can see, whereas Barden may put, several paragraphs or a page or two to an exercise, or a bunch of exercises that are related. A book like this will go a lot deeper with, more modern technical language, and it hasn't been translated. It's straight from English, so there's not that sort of potential loss of translation. All right, let's have a look here. Shemidwadjin. Okay, that's an interesting username. It come to my knowledge that you're not supposed to read IIH from step 1 to 10. So what order or how should we read it? Okay, so this is a common question, and it's going to depend on who you ask. If you just follow the book to the letter, it'll say don't move on to the next exercise until you've read the previous one. As far as reading the book through before you start, that's my standard practice. Generally, I will read, even if I've started doing exercises, I will read through the book, because I study the form. I want to familiarize myself with the process that I'm engaging in, because that will help me to understand what I'm heading myself towards or steering myself towards. Doesn't mean that the latter part of the book is going to necessarily make sense to me, because sometimes it requires skills that are developed in the earlier stage of the book that you basically you can't perceive or comprehend how those latter exercises may actually what they might bring forth, the fruits and things that may eventuate. There's so in response to your question, what order or how should we read it? Should. If you take a traditionalist approach, if you prefer to work under, quite disciplined structure, then, you can follow the book as it is. That's it. A lot of people have done that, and a lot of people haven't gotten success from that approach. And, for whatever reason, they get stuck on the first couple of exercises, or they haven't really been doing them properly, or they haven't quite understood what they're supposed to be doing. There's modern teachers available now who have been doing this 20, 30 years, who have found ways of doing these exercises that make them far more accessible. One of those is my favorite, because he's the chap that basically introduced me to Barden's work, and that is Mark Rasmus, M-A-R-C-M-A-R-K. I think I've got a banner up here. I would say check out the Mark Rasmus YouTube channel, and he's got a couple of videos up there that are really good that explain it. He's got a lot of videos, so you have to sift through them. But if you scroll down quite a bit, you'll find 20 and 30-minute videos where he goes into great depth about what the initiation process is. And he'll also talk about why doing it as Barden says in the book is not ideal. And you're going to have to come to your own conclusion about the best way to approach this. I've come to my own, and I've gone back to the traditionalist view because I didn't start with a traditionalist view, and I see value in both angles. But yeah, I'm quite happy and satisfied. I don't really push people either way. I'd rather just talk about things, and say, hey, this is what I've noticed. But there's plenty of teachers who will stress using the book as it is written to the word. And then there are others who will say, hey, and this is someone who's maybe doing it for 10, 20, 30 years. Perfect. They've got experience. Awesome. And then there are other people who've been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years who've got results, and they've done it slightly different, and they're teachers too. So you're going to have to essentially flesh this out for yourself, what you feel is the most appropriate way. Because at the end of the day, this is about universality. This is not about doctrine or dogma. And which is funny because, the book does say, this, then this, then this, then this. And I think, Mark Rasmus's sort of explanation of like, well, this was written in a time when, there were forces at work that wanted to seize this technology. And so by making it in this approach, then it's far less accessible because it doesn't work as well or if at all. So, yeah, I've got my training in a way down that I really enjoy. I do, Qigong and Tai Chi and body training as well. I bring in, I really enjoy the Mark Rasmussen 60 Skills editions, and I've come up with my own ways of approaching things, which at some point I will create a curriculum for people who want to take I don't know what to call it really. I think 60 Skills did it quite well by calling it 60 Skills, the 60 Skills of meditation and yogic practice. I think that's a good way of framing it. He does mention Franz Barden a bit because he says that he is, influenced or inspired by Franz Barden. I think he said something like maybe 60 or 70% of his course, of the 60 Skills course, is Barden related. But you're going to have to figure that one out for yourself. 7-9 Shemdem. Sorry, I can't pronounce that. I'm guessing it's a codified sort of name, but yeah, you're going to have to figure this out for yourself. What I found is that success begets success. And one thing in Barden that was pointed out to me that made sense is that he talks about recording your failures or your disruptions to your concentration in that. Whereas, say, another teacher, Mark Rasmus, has said, why not record your success? So rather than recording a negative, you're recording positives. And so that's going to reinforce a positive self-image of success, which makes perfect sense for me. That's how I would teach as a music teacher as well. And so it's, I don't know why Barden chose the way that he did. I've heard Martin Folks, he's got a great video where he shows how the 10 steps are overlaid on the tree of life, and he relates them back to that. So I can see how there's an esoteric intertwining with the tree of life there. And so that will be of some value and use there. But as an educator, I'm sure you'll find that some teachers will probably be somewhat critical of the approach that Barden lays out too. Just got to, discover for yourself, what is the best way to do this. And I think too that it does mention in the book, like the book is designed for, he said it's for people who are busy. He says he's designed it for the busiest man or the busiest person so that they, they can do an hour in the morning, an hour at night, basically. And so, when we're talking about crossing thresholds of capability where you do something enough and then you're able to do it, you're finally able to run around the whole neighborhood. You don't have to stop and have a rest. You finally do it. And once you break that boundary, you're able to just do it now, right? You know, Barden saying, don't move on to the next one. Well, he's basically saying, look, this is designed for the person who's got an hour or two to spend a day. And so the curriculum will be designed around that, which means sit down, do the thing, get good at it. Once you're able to reach that proficiency, then do the next one. Because an hour may be what it takes to get good at one thing or get you that far, whereas say, I think, Bob from 60s, he'll say, do each exercise for 5 minutes. And over time, you'll get good, you'll reach those proficiency levels over the course sort of thing. You don't do it. And I've got to say, I'm a bit in between. I like getting good at things. I'll do a bunch of things, but I want results. I'm a bit impatient like that. And so that's in my mirror, but I'm kind of the same, I can't help be like wanting to do the thing until I can do it. And I can see how it feeds into the next thing, but I can also see how the next thing contains the thing before it. And so even working on the next thing will help on the previous thing, because concentration is just about in all of them. Your ability to do a couple of things at once, to almost like bilocate or put your awareness inside something at the first level, and then at the next level at the depth point, to be able to hold that so that it permeates and starts to basically occupy part of you, so that you can recall that, so you're not having to sort of bring the house back in. No, it's not the right way. You get good at something and then you work on it until you're able to really bake it in. So it's now a passive ability almost. You've got it in the background, like riding a bicycle. And don't get me wrong, sometimes getting back on the bike after a while, you can be a bit wonky. So some of these exercises, I mean, like that very first one, watching your thoughts rise and fall away, that's something I do every day. It's a lifelong exercise in my view. That may not be reflected in the text, what I've just said there, but it's actually an enjoyable pastime of mine. I wonder what my mind's going to come up with now. It does get a bit quiet sometimes, because after a while, the amount of traffic starts to die down. Very nice. Very nice. Was introduced to that tea from a friend. Very grateful. So, what's everyone up to? It's nearly 7 o'clock here in Auckland. What else? What other little treasures have I got here? Oh, you're most welcome. Thank you. Yeah, you're going to have to figure it out for yourself. All right, so here we go. So I've got this. I'll do the which one I'll do first. So this will be for all of you that are into Reiki, specifically Reiki, Japanese Reiki. So I remember going to check this out. So I'm going to share a little bit of a magic story with you. So this will be a fun one. So we've got a lot of secondhand stores, op shops or thrift shops around where I live. There's a village just up the road within walking distance. And there's about, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's about 4 or 5 all within pretty close walking distance of each other. There's 3 of them that are all like in an alley, and then there's one down the other end of town sort of thing. But there's a lot of them. And when I walk through and I see this, colloquial Japanese, right? It's a big plastic thing here, pardon me, and it was $2. I'm like, what? Okay, let's have a look. So let's see what comes in this. Let's do an unboxing. Colloquial Japanese. All right, let's have a look here. So what do we got? Oh my gosh. Look at this. Cassettes, right? So it's a bit old. Cassettes. And of course, a couple of CDs. CDs, some of you might be like, what the heck's a CD? Back in the day, cassettes. Oh, geez. Let's put that back in there. All right. Now, it comes with a couple of books too. So we've got this, I actually thought they might be VHS. Anyway, it comes with this book, a really beautiful book. And it's very good. Like, it helps you to understand Japanese language and colloquial language, which is far more usable than, because if you're going to go somewhere, um, depending on, I haven't been to Japan, I haven't done a lot of world travel, but it makes sense to me that if I'm going to go to another country, I want to at least learn, where's the toilet? Can I have a sandwich, please? These kinds of things are very useful. And also, getting to learn some of their kind of, they're more their colloquialisms, I guess, for, speak like the locals, sort of thing, rather than a stiff version of language. So here's the thing, right? Now, see if it's in here. So I thought this was awesome because I got this to sort of help me with my Reiki studies. I used to study Japanese at school years ago. And I also worked for a company that was Japanese eventually, which sold Hitachi excavators. And so I had to learn about a different approach to Japanese and for a bunch of different reasons. But this book here, anyway, I find, and it's like, oh, there's some kind of game card in here. And I was like, okay, this is fun. What is it? It's some kind of like, I can't remember what they're called, but they're like a, what were they called? Slizer. Slizer. They're like some kind of kid's toy, and there's a robot, and it flicks the spinning disc into a ring, and something happens, and one of the discs ends up being the champion, and one's the loser, or something like this. But it's some sort of dinky kids thing, and and it's like I don't know. But anyway, check this out. So I'm reading this thing. Okay, Judge Slizer. So this is the character card. Okay, so this obviously comes like with the thing, and it's got like some metrics. So you might be able to use this as a playing card. But I found this as a bookmark. Check this out. Judge Slizer does not have a continent of his own, but watches over and controls from the Slizer Dome where the contests take place. Slizers who break the rules are expelled from the dome by Judge Slizer, who also controls the size of the continents. Now, I actually don't know what any of that means, but I'm just going to turn my mic down a bit because it sounds like it's a bit loud. But the mission, wait for this. So, like I said, I was looking for I took this because to help me with my Reiki studies because I'm trying to translate some of the Japanese. To maintain order and balance. So this is the mission listed on the back in bold. To maintain order and balance, he draws his energy from cosmic background radiation. I read that and I'm like, going, oh, that's wild, man. You get what I mean, right? I mean, that's pretty much what we're doing with energy healing in a sense. We're basically pulling on ambient energy from the environment or background environmental things. And you probably don't need to explain it. But I saw that and I was just like, that's so cool, man. And I think that's kind of helps me with my sort of description of Reiki as well, which is more of a, it's more universal than people think. I don't think that Reiki, Reiki is, people think of Reiki as a certain type or flavor of energy. I don't really see it that way. I found it depends what layer of reality needs attention. Most people on the table who get on my healing table will see the color purple. What's purple? Well, if we look at Kabbalah, it's generally the letter E, isn't it? Well, it could be an H or a CH or a W kind of maybe, or maybe a B. But, if most people are seeing like a dark violet color, I'd usually associate that with an E. And, just as a general, sort of like, okay, we'll throw it under that for the moment. And what that tells me is that there's each layer of reality, Akashic, mental, astral, physical, they've all got levels of energy, if you will, or whatever it is. And the purple is essentially the full spectrum, and that is topping up or affecting the layer that needs it the most. It's almost like a non-specific. It's kind of like it's like your WD-40 or your masking tape or your 100-mile-an-hour duct tape sort of thing. I'm not saying it's a temporary solution. That's not what I'm inferring. I'm saying it's a good sort of cover-all, catch-all. That's at the early stages. Once you get into, if you look at, there's energy healing that's passive, and then there's more, if you look at the Hermetics program, you can see that we can affect change rather than just be a sort of like a hollow bone, if you will, for the energy to pass through, like a channel. So you're not just basically standing there holding the Reiki hose and going, man, you could get anyone to do this almost. I'm not talking smack about Reiki here or anything, because I am a Reiki teacher, but, which in my understanding means just energy healer, really. There's a Sui Reiki, there's a Sui Shiki Reiki, there's Jikiden, there's you name it. But, when you have things broken down for you, which you do get in the Hermetics program, and then you can see that every layer, how imbalances can arise, and then how to affect those and cause change in them. And then you have to know whether or not you're actually allowed to. Okay. That's the tricky bit, because sometimes you don't know whether you're allowed to or not. And that's why it's good to work on vacancy of mind and stillness, so that when you're about to, if you're just doing a passive healing where you put your hands on people and you're not directing or thinking about it, you'll be fine, generally speaking. You're not wanting to change anything. It's like, okay, if they're allowed to get something, cool. I'm just here. I'm just holding space, if you will. And you can get plenty of beautiful outcomes with that. But if you're going to go down the other end where you're like, you can see or exchange something like that, and, you're like, ooh, having vacancy of mind, you're above the astral body. You're not like, oh, I hope I can heal this person, or I hope you're getting excited or you're nervous, and that you want to have that all silenced. You want to be outside of that body. You want to be in your mental body, because that's when the information will come through about, you'll get little tidbits of information. That's my experience anyway. Pretty wild conversation to anyone who's jumping on who's doesn't know what I'm talking about. But finding ways to be comfortable with it, because when you read certain materials, they will say, you shouldn't do healing on people. Like even Barden's book says, you shouldn't charge for healing. And it's like, well, doctors charge for healing. Yeah, but it's not energy healing. Well, it is kind of. There's some stuff in there that I'm not sure about. I was already a professional Reiki practicer or energy healer before I sort of read the book, and it's like, oh, I got to quit my job now. I mean, he charged for healing people. I'm not sure about that, actually. I think it's going to have a lot to do with the maturity of the person as well. I think there's a lot of factors involved when you start, I don't want to say commoditizing your esoteric practice, but if you commercialize it. But I think as long as you're sincere, you can go. So Franz Steiner, if you're aware of Franz Steiner, he's one of the notable sort of eminent Reiki scholars out there. He's done a heap of travel, talked to a lot of the important people, and traced it back as far as he can. Great researcher. As far as I know, you can go and see him for a Reiki session. I mean, this guy travels all the time. He's written books and given talks and taken big classes, but you can still get a one-to-one healing session or Reiki session. I don't know if healings are the right word. I think it's like God. It's just unhelpful in some ways. But it is functional too, because it does point towards something that, I don't know. I'm still chewing on that one. But you can go and see Franz Steiner, busy man. He's still doing private sessions, and it's not expensive. I think he's like $125 Australian. You can go and get a session with Franz Steiner. It's pretty wild, Like even my Reiki teacher. I mean, she was getting lots of students, and she just didn't have it in her to do sessions all day long, and so she just doubled her price, and she still gets enough to pay the bills and all that. But if anyone can't afford her, then she just puts them onto her students, sort of thing. But yeah, I guess we all value things differently, and at some point, I tell you, the number of parallels I draw from being a musician to working in this stuff, at some point you get a bit tired of playing pubs and bars and cafes and that, and you're like, if I really, because you don't necessarily earn that much, but there's a lot of time investment involved, and it can be a bit uh, soul destroying to just have to play a lot of the same stuff over and over again. Some venues and crowds won't like it if you start busting out songs they've never heard of and things like that. And so you're pretty much like a glorified jukebox in a lot of ways. You just get to choose what gets played and stuff. But after a while, you might be like, you know what? If I'm going to do this for a job, I want to get paid better. And you're kind of limited to the kind of gigs that are available. But then you're like, well, what else is there? Well, where are the the higher paying gigs and professionals? There are professionals out there who are white collar professionals who are looking for people who can explain themselves well and who seem to have an air of authenticity about what they're doing. And so that's the thing to aim for, is professionalism. If you're going to be an esoteric service offerer, then find ways to elevate your professional presentation, and then you'll be able to get the bigger gigs. The bigger gigs as a musician are like weddings pay well. If you're a muso, weddings pay well. Corporate gigs, oh yeah, that's where the cash is at. I know a lady, she charges like $5,000 for a corporate gig. There's another lady who charges like $300 for a half-hour healing session. That's not me. I'm pretty blue collar with it. I'm like 120, I think, for an hour type of thing. So, but it really depends on what you're aiming for and what you want to do and how much you want to do it. But anyway, I've got this book here, and I do believe it's a numerology book that I found. It's a beautiful book. It's got all these. I think it's got colors in it as well. Colors and numerology. And it's got things like compatibility charts. Numerology is just it's a really strange thing, but it does make sense, This is a really interesting book because I think it's definitely aimed at women, because there's a lot of stuff to do with love. Oh, here we go. Titania's Book of Numerology. Yep, so it's written by a lady, so it's probably more directed at ladies. Okay. So let's see. So what it is it's got like birthdays on specific days. So let's have a look. So what's today? Today is the 7th of November. So let's go for a birthday on a 7. So if anyone's having a birthday on a 7 day, let's see what it says. Just because, while I'm here, might be kind of fun. Okay, 7. Okay, birthday on the 7th. A birthday on the 7th will mean you have elected an important incarnation. You're going to be a serious perfectionist and an authority in your areas of interest. This is the analytical and scientific number. Born on this day, you will need to create the opportunity to expand your knowledge and absorb information eclectically all your life. Well, I mean, it might be. I didn't really pay a lot of attention to astrology, to be fair. But then it turns out, once I did start learning a little bit about astrology, I started looking at the people around me and their behaviors. I thought, well, okay, I've got 2 family members who are basically 5 days apart in their birthday, and they're Scorpios. Okay, let's have a look. What does a Scorpio say? And I'm looking at this thing and I'm like going, oh my gosh, this is creepy accurate. And because they're both quite close together. Now I've got another couple of family members who are both Taurus, but they're at like the different ends, like they're right on the cusp of each end, but they're still inside the Taurus there. So I read up about that, and I'm like, "Ooh, that one's not as spot on for me, but I can still see it. It's still there's still enough there to make me go, but there's some things, there's patterns that are noticeable. And I've got to say, I haven't really spent any time with numerology apart from the gematria type stuff, which is, and the stuff that deals with correspondences with the Tree of Life and tarot and these types of things, because you kind of got to have those things down if you want to get into certain Western traditions. But I don't know why I brought this book out. I think it was because I thought there was a section on colors, and colors are really interesting because we can relate that back to our practice. And what do I mean by that? So when I was talking before about people on the tables, the most common color they saw was purple all day long. Someone said to me once, oh, that's because it's related to the third eye. They're seeing something in their inner eyes, and that one's sort of like a purple color, isn't it? I think it's more like an indigo, isn't it? Rather than say a purple. It's probably even more violet what these people saw. So it's more between here and here sort of. But the other one is that this one time I went for a Reiki session well before Baden, before KDQ and all that. I'm lying on the table, and my Reiki sister that I studied with, she's giving me a Reiki session, and I get this big E flash at me. It wasn't purple though, but I thought that was pretty funny. Start connecting dots. Guys, I'm here. I'll be on here for a bit longer. Does anyone have any questions on initiation to Hermetics or Kabbalah? I'll answer the best I can. I don't really have a lot to offer on the practice of magical evocation. If you're curious about Reiki, about just meditation in general, whatever, just throw your question into the chat and I'll do my best with it. Okay. What else have I got here? Oh, here we go. This is a fun book. So this book is called A Guide for the Advanced Soul, a Book of Insight. Hold a problem in your mind. Open this book to any page, and there will be your answer. A good book on colors is Practical Color Magic by Buckland. Wonderful. Thank you. All right, everyone. You can see that there. Thank you so much. 7-9. 7 of 9. Wait a minute. Is that a Star Trek reference? Huh. Interesting. Maybe. It's almost 7 past 7 here, actually. I said 9 past 7, 7-9. All right. So I tell you what, let's have a bit of fun here. So if you guys are keen on playing along, maybe you've got a problem, as it says. Hold a problem in your mind or something you're seeking answers from, and I'll just flick open a random page and see what happens. Let's see. I've got a hole in a bucket that I can't find a stopper for, or I've got a rash on my toe. Who knows? I don't know if it's going to give advice to help with that, but let's see. All right, I'm just going to. No. Okay, here we go. Oh, okay. Oh, this is a Krishnamurti quote, and it's funny because it actually fell open on the bookmark, which I didn't put in there, I don't think. Okay, check this out. Only in relationship can you know yourself, not in abstraction, and certainly not in isolation. The movement of behavior is the sure guide to yourself. It's the mirror of your consciousness. This mirror will reveal its content, the images, the attachments, the fears, the loneliness, the joy, and sorrow. Poverty lies in running away from this, either in its sublimations or its identities. We'll take from that what we will. Obviously, in initiation into Hermetics, it's designed to be a solo practice. Doesn't say that you pull yourself out of society, but we reflect on our on our base, our strengths and our flaws, our weaknesses and our virtues, our vices and our virtues. Yeah, I think I got the orders mixed up there. But there's a process to unfolding, that which you have taken on, which is not necessarily your own. Much of what we pick up in our formative years, up to the age of about 7, we carry with us for a very long period of our life. Pardon me. And once we get into the workforce at a young age, perhaps, or even at schools, we've become quite malleable with our learning. We get put into the state system if we are, and we become quite receptive to information coming from some kind of authority figure. And so, when we go into the workforce and we find people that we enjoy working with, we're making money, we're making new connections with people, we're becoming an adult. We can also become quite impressionable there. We can meet a mentor who helps us to grow, and that we think we can't think ill of them. We can only, but what happens is that we can unconsciously, through taking on and emulating their best qualities, they may teach us, let's start the day with a clear desk and end with a clear desk. So when we come in the morning, we've done as much as we can the night before. That was the guy that taught me. Problem was, there were lots of good things. He was very meticulous. He was an excellent record keeper. He was all about keeping things clean and tidy. And when he came to the job, I was already there, and the previous boss had let the place get pretty messy. So this guy's job was to clean it up. And so I got a lot of good habits and best practices, I would say, from him. Good housekeeping. I was working in the store as a storeman at the age of 16, and so the problem was, though, is that I really looked up to this guy. He was like a big brother, because I don't have any big brothers. I've got mates who I'd call big brothers, but thinking I'm going to follow this model. But what happened is that I ended up taking on a lot of his bad traits as well, which I deemed to be bad. One of those was being married to the job. I would spend exorbitant amounts of time at work getting things done, and I was even doing that when I was on salary. So I didn't have to work a 60-hour or even. Well, I did an 80-hour week once. I was doing it because I don't know. Was I trying to earn street cred? Maybe a little bit, but I just really enjoyed having the freedom to do things. And my newer boss, who I had when I moved to Wellington, I could basically go into that building any time of night. The same with the other place too, actually. And I could just work whenever I wanted to. And I just was really satisfied by doing work, getting things cleaned up, organized, getting things ready. We were in customer service. We had a lot of stressed out people coming in. Their whole livelihood was resting on whether or not the part for their truck had arrived. And so we wanted to make sure we, did that sort of thing. And did it well. But these things we take on, we have to let go of them too. They come back. The best parts come back. I think what happens is that you take on the thing in whatever form it takes, and then, learning how to release things. I've been doing this a bit lately, actually. I've just been letting go of everything. And what happens is you let the thing go. And because, if you're into Qigong or you're up to step 3 in Barden's book, and you've got some level of real energy sensitivity, you can actually physically feel the thing that you're mentally kind of put in a circle around. You can feel it leave you. You can feel it. And it might be hard because it may be something that you're really attached to, right? There's a couple of things that I did that with, and they didn't think they would hurt as much as I thought they would, but they did. All right. Oh, got a message. What's going on here? Oh, hey, what's up, Tanya? Seven. Oh, okay. I get you. Yeah. So anyway, so I've got my Thoth deck here. Phil, this is a Hermetics and Kabbalah channel. Yeah, come on, man. Let's relax. Pull a card out. Think of a thing. Oh, there we go. Lust. Now, obviously, this is the one that Crowley changed because in the Rider-Waite deck, 11 is the Justice card, but he decided to swap it out with the Strength card for his various reasons. And then, of course, there's a conversation about what he did with Zadi and the Star and the Emperor as well. Lust. Strength card. I think strength's a really good thing to have. And just on the topic of initiation into Hermetics, if I just take the literal word strength, there's not a lot of emphasis placed on body conditioning. But it's getting brought up quite a bit by people like, Rasmus and Bob from 60 Skills and that too. And also Nathan Shredney from Tai Chi Institute. We did a great conversation a while back and we talked about it. But, strength in all areas. It's funny how he calls it lust, actually. I'm not sure why he calls it lust. I think it's more like a drive, like there's an inner emergence of energy that wants to find expression. And obviously in the Rider-Waite deck, the same card, well, it's not technically the same card, but the card is, I've actually got my one here. Let's have a look. Oh, got my nice shiny new deck that my friend found for me. Here we go. So we can both see there's a line on these two cards. One's called Strength, one's called Lust. This one's got a bit of extra symbolism in it because it uses Kabbalistic symbolism. But this one here, you can see they've both got a line on it. But essentially we see there's like a taming of the lion. So these forces that dwell within us, there are ways to gently manage powerful things. And part of our job is to subdue our, these aspects of ourselves, our libido. We have to take responsibility. There's even some crossover with the devil card. It's almost like the devil cards could be considered like when strength runs amok, when lust runs amok. And these are really important considerations for those of us who are on the development pathway because, we don't want to be led by our lesser aspects, our base instincts. We want to be the masters of them. And we choose whether or not they show up. Maybe they're useful and appropriate, and maybe they're not. We decide. But they don't just pop up when they want. That's what we're seeking to suppress, essentially. Or not suppress, but resolve, is that we don't have these unwanted sorts of appearances by things that just essentially are problematic and unwanted. All right, let's see what's happening in the chat. It's pretty quiet. Okay. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I'm going to have to go and make something to eat soon. It's getting a bit late for me. Oh, g'day, Randy. You're back. Great to see you, man. Yeah, I thought I'd jump on. I'd drop another shirt. I didn't feel like I expended everything that I wished to in the previous conversation, so I thought I would jump back on for a bit. Yeah, the free version of the software cuts me off. Free version of the software. Why not support the channel and sign up for just a coffee a month? For just the price of a coffee a month, you can sign up at philrice.substack.com. Support the channel. Support the YouTube channel. Support the Substack channel. Whatever you want. Substack's way better. YouTube makes you jump through some serious damn hoops, and then you've got to. I won't go into it. But yeah, let's see. I've got Mark Rasmus up there the whole time. People are going to go, "You're not Mark Rasmus." No, I'm not. I'm Phil. Oh, that's funny. There's going to be a whole probably half an hour of that sign being up. Funny. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here. Always a pleasure. And I haven't really got too much else to talk about. Actually, I've kind of covered quite a bit of ground here. I'm going to, I think I'm going to disappear shortly. I'm really grateful to you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate all of the questions and helping me understand your questions. I know that some people in the chat, English is not a first language or it's not strong for them. And so, I appreciate that, when I'm trying to understand it, if I'm heading down the wrong track, just correct me, okay? Because I want to help you out best I can. And I recognize that we're all at different stages of development if we're on the Hermetics pathway. And so, no judgment here about how you approach it. If anything, it's like, we recognize there's a great value to be had in this refinement and empowerment process. And we're here to support each other if we're on that path and we want to help each other out. And, I've had people on my channel, like in interviews, who aren't on the IIH pathway. But like I said, the channel's starting to widen in scope. It already kind of was. But, other disciplines and practices can add value. And I think that's part of the journey too, is that we can discover where we can see these same practices in other systems. That's that whole comparative analysis, which I highly recommend. And, you don't have to set yourself out to study the because it's a big world out there and there's a lot of systems. Like I said before, this book here has got some real value in it. ESP Induction Through Forms of Self-Hypnosis by Richard Alan Miller. I would recommend that to anyone on the Barden path, especially for the mental training and the auto-suggestion, and also about metrics for ESP, because actually I have got a thing I can show you. Hang on, I'm going to bring something out to you. Give me about that long. Hang on. Hello again. So I'm going to share with you a fun little setup that you can organize for yourself. So I've got this little sort of click-clack container here, and it's just the right size for playing cards. Now, what I have in this is there are 5 decks of cards in here. They're all the same type of card, although some of them are actually they're all the same packet, but some of them have a slightly different finish. But essentially, there's 5 decks of cards in here. Now, the purpose of this is that if you're using a single deck of cards, and you're doing card guessing, or you're trying to, trying to measure your ability to make correct guesses when choosing cards, if you've already picked the ace of clubs, well, you're not going to pick that again, and so this here sort of stops that because you've got 5 decks in here. And so it's anyone's guess. All right. I tell you what, I'm going to pull a card out and I'm just going to, you guys can't see it, and I'm going to put it right here. So I'm going to give the chat, if anyone wants to jump in, you can either choose whether it's red or black, and you can choose the suit, which will be 1 and 4, or you can choose the number and the suit, or you could just choose the number. So you can choose whether it's red or black. You can choose whether it's, which suit it is, and you can choose. It's not a king or a queen; it's a pip card. There are kings and queens in here, but this card's a pip card, which means it's a number card. So if you would like to see if you can guess what it is, just put it into the chat. Okay. All right, 7 to 9. Okay, you're saying it's red and it's a 1. Okay. Randy is saying it's a 3 and a club. Okay. Well, there's only 2 people in the chat, so we'll just do it. Okay. Well, I've got to say 7 to 9, you were the closest. It was definitely a red card. Randy, you went straight for the hardest one. What do they say? You don't buy a lotto ticket when you're doing remote viewing. You wait until you can guess all the numbers and then you go buy the lotto ticket. But I admire you're aiming for the top there, brother. All right, let's do another one. Okay, so now let's just go for, okay, so I'm not going to use that one because I've already looked at it. Aiming for the top. All right, hang on. I've just dropped my cards out. So I'm going to pick another one. Let's see if you guys can pick in advance. So I'm not going to pick the card yet. This is another fun way of doing this one. You pick the card and then I'll pull one out and we'll see how it lines up. Oh my gosh. If you want to play along, that is. All right. Okay, here we go. All right. So I'm just going to, okay, so we've got one person there picking it. So 7 to 9 says black 4. Okay, so I'm just going to grab a big chunk of cards and I'm just going to go, I'm going to pick one. Okay, Randy reckons a spade. So both of you guys are picking black cards. Okay, let's have a look here. Okay. So, like I said, sometimes. So let's see. So black 4. No. 9 of spades. Oh, bro. 9 of hearts. Looks like a spade, doesn't it? It's pretty damn close. What I found is that I'll sit there, like I'll be doing something and I'll just leave these cards to the side, right? And then I'll just have like a flash of inspiration and I'll just say a card and then I'll pull on it. And sometimes I get it, like I get the suit and the number. And obviously, the more often you're able to make correct guesses is a good sign that you're making some progress, right? And that's the goal, is that, how does it work? Well, there's a bunch of ways that you could explain it. You could say that you're seeing into the future. You could say that you're remote, you're getting impressions from it. The other thing you can do is if, and this is a fun one, is like, so each one of these cards, like, so a normal playing deck is based on on the tarot deck, right? Yep. So basically, like for example, the Ace of Clubs is usually associated with the Ace of Wands. Some associated with the Ace of Swords. I'm not sure why, but I guess whatever. You can make things fit. So, for example, you could lay out the tarot cards, or you could lay out the playing cards, and lay them out in their suits. So let's say hearts is cups, which is the water element. The spades are swords, which is the air element. The clubs are wands, which is the fire element. And the diamonds are usually pentacles, which is the earth element. And this is a good one to play with kids. You basically have, you have a card there, and you kind of mentally project or put your hand over it and go, does this card feel hot or cold? Does it feel light or heavy? And then you're starting to build a bridge between a kind of a mental construct or something that's on the card, but it represents something. Do you get what I mean? It's kind of like a law of analogy. Yeah, it's just a picture of a thing on a card, but for some reason, it's got a warmth around it. And I wonder where like knowing that kind of data would come in handy. Now imagine if you train yourself so that like, ace through to 10 is an intensity of that element as well, right? So each one of those individual cards, look, seriously, like it sounds good on the way I'm saying it. And I'm sure people are like, yeah, it always looks good on paper. The thing is that you can have a play with this and get some pretty interesting results. Like, if you just like, I tell you this, when I was working hardcore on this book, like doing hardcore work on it, I'd be playing games where I'd just like leave a deck of cards, playing cards, I should say, leave a deck of playing cards on the table. And look, I'm not trying to blow smoke up anyone's butt here, and you'll have to take this at face value. You can't verify this because I'm just going to share an anecdote. So I've got a stack of cards sitting on the table while I'm doing the vacuuming, which reminds me, I need to do the vacuuming. I then walk past and I go, 2 of diamonds. I flip the card over. It's a 2 of diamonds. I thought, geez, that's a pretty good guess. Oh, I'll take that. Cool. Fun anecdote. I'm carrying on. I put the card back on top. I don't put it in the deck. I just put it back on top and I just carry on. And then I was like going, I wonder if the bottom card is like the 6 of hearts. So I lift the deck up and I look on the bottom. It's not in this case. But it was the 6 of hearts. And I was like, wow, I got 2 right. And they were both hard. Now, I stopped doing the training and my guessing chops started to fall off a bit, I have to say. Like, you want to be doing this kind of thing regularly, especially if it's not natural for you. A lot of these learned skills, if they're not sort of part of your life, your service path, they're going to take a bit longer to sort of emerge, potentially. The other one was, this one was fun. So I'm driving. So I set this thing up, right? So I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to be thinking about this card all day long. So I picked a card just off the top of my head. I think I picked like the 8 of clubs or something like this. And I tell you what, guys, I'm going to pull another card. You can have a chew on it. All right, here it is here. I've got the card. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to look at it. I'm going to put it there so you can put your guess up. And actually, I will just have a quick sneak. Okay. Yep. Okay. So it's... yeah, it is what it is. But I was thinking about this card all day long, this 8 of clubs, right? And I was driving and I was thinking about 8 of clubs, and I had this fixed visual in my mind, not while I'm driving because I'm concentrating on the road. I'm driving around all day and then I'm going to the supermarket and I'm like, oh yeah, 8 of clubs, 8 of clubs. So I was just constantly reinforcing this visual, right? I get home. I get my box. Hey, you're most welcome, 709. You have a beautiful sleep. I get my box. Thanks for joining in. Thank you for the great questions too. I appreciate it. I'm glad you got some value. I grab the box. I pull a card out. It's the 8 of clubs. How does it work? I don't know. Curious anecdote though. These are fun things. But when you start noticing patterns of success, if you do red and black for a whole 52 cards and you get, 20% right, and then the next day you get 30 and the next day you get 40, and then you're starting to get more often than not correct. Kind of hard to not see something there. A lot of people won't even entertain this though because it's just too far out, or it's fluke, or it's some kind of, the odds of the likelihood of something occurring. Oh, It's fun to play, and it's fun to play with kids too. Like you just get a playing deck and just play red and black, and everyone they get right, they get a pile, and they get a big pile. But kids, everyone likes to have a guess. You don't even have to infer anything psychic. Let's just see. All right, and it's a bit of ego about like who's going to win. Pardon me. And so I think finding ways to play with your proficiency metrics, so that on one hand you're playing. If you're playing and enjoying and having fun with your practice, you can practice all day long. I found that to be a truth. If I go out in the bush and I've got the whole morning, I'll stand out there and I can just float on the life force and start, working with letters or whatever. And it's just a very pleasant, enjoyable experience. And so, and the same with the mental body training. I'm glad you like to play, Randy. You do. You do indeed. So playing is good. And if you can only play by yourself, I won't go there. But yeah, finding new ways to play too. I think what can happen is the same with music too. If you play the same old song all the time, you're probably going to start getting a little bit dry on it. Things can become a bit stiff and sterile, and generally you want to avoid that. You want to maintain enthusiasm within the activity. And so having some fun games to play, like I said, I got 5 decks of cards in there. They're all randomized. And, we'll have some people around. I'll just leave it on the table. I'll say, hey, if you think of a card, just pull one out. See what happens. See what happens. Don't, and whatever it is, and I give them this bit of advice, unsolicited advice, I might add. I'll say to them, hey, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You don't want to get emotional about it. You want to leave emotions at the door, because emotions can end up being the blockage towards the information, the data presenting itself. So, this is it. I have to say, after years of playing, the only kind of playing I really enjoy doing nowadays on my guitar is improvisation. Because you're playing, you've got a bunch of paints or a bunch of Lego blocks or a bunch of tones, and you're just finding new ways of putting them together. It's novelty. You're exploring new things, and it keeps things interesting. Don't get me wrong. There's always going to be a grind. You're going to be grinding those pecs, those biceps, and all those things. There's lots of different ways of doing exercises, and so it's good to keep things fresh and enjoyable. And I think if you've got a bunch of different ways of sort of practicing each one of the exercises and initiation into Hermetics that are, them to be, correct practices that are complementary or supplementary, then that's great, because finding new ways to do stuff keeps you alive. Otherwise it can become a hollow practice, a hollow form. It's kind of like, if you're not, it's like saying grace at the table. If it ends up being just like rub-a-dub-dub, thanks for the grub, because you're just saying it because you might as well just, you could save yourself a bunch of breath. There may be something. But we know that, sitting in a devotional kind of sacred kind of space when you're doing food, eating, drinking, things like that, there's a reason why the monks will treat this as being of importance. It's an opportunity, in Hermetics. It's absolutely an opportunity. We're going to imbibe the Eucharist, essentially, and we're going to take that in. We're going to, at a material level, it's going to find its way into the blood, into where the Akasha runs. Okay. Well, I think, guys, I'm done. I think I'm going to disappear unless anyone's got a question in the audience. I'm going to disappear any moment now. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in for this second round. I got to say, 2 doesn't quite cut it. 2 hours doesn't quite cut it. It's just, do what I can. All right. Thank you, Randy. You have a beautiful evening. Thank you to everyone who's been watching. I appreciate you guys. You stay well. And I'll be announcing another guest tomorrow as well. We've got a guest on Sunday morning or Sunday evening. I can't remember. It's one of the two. So we'll keep you guys posted. Stay well. We'll see you then.